Hello and welcome to the Wellness Connection with Fiona Kane. I'm your host, Fiona Kane, and I'm excited to tell you that today I have a guest who's going to be talking to me about conflict management. Her name is Melissa Ferrari. Hi, Melissa. How are you going?
Hi, Fiona, and hi, everybody.
So, for those who don't know you, maybe haven't seen you on the telly, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so I'm a psychotherapist and couple therapist, and I've been doing that for 25 years. I am trained and certified in the approach to couple therapy called PACT, which is the psychobiological approach to couple therapy. I'm very proud to say that I've studied 12 years to finally get accredited in that work. And I see people in my practice either online or actually in person. So I do individual psychotherapy as well as couples, and but mainly my area is around couples and relationships. And I do a bit of media as well. I'm on Channel 9's Today Extra, and ABC, and other things where you might find me in the media, sort of sprinkled throughout.
Yeah, so for anyone who's wondering, I've seen her before. Where have I That is
Yeah.
where she pops up all around in the media. And so, look, I'm really pleased to have you here today. Thank you so much for giving me your valuable time.
Thanks, Fiona. Thanks for asking me. It's been a long time coming.
Managing conflict is a challenging thing, and I suppose it ties into relationships in general. So I might just start a little bit by talking about relationships, and I might start by just asking you a bit about marriage. I know there's all different relationships, but it's one that you and I are both interested in. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of what about my theory, something to do with marriage, and you can tell me with
Yep.
all your years of knowledge how wrong I am or how right I am or whatever. So, I've been with my husband for 34 years, and I what I think happens now, there's a few caveats to this, right? Because essentially for a relationship to work, you've got to have the two people there who both want it to work and who are both being honest. And, so there's obviously just the general kind of people are there for the right reason and they want to be there kind of stuff. So assuming that first. But what I think happens in relationships is I think that in the beginning of a relationship, when we look at each other, when we look in each other's eyes, we see a reflection back of how wonderful we are, because it's that honeymoon phase and it's like how wonderful we are. Oh, I'm so great. Oh, I'm so wonderful. Over time, when that wears off, what we start to see is a reflection back of a little bit more of a real version of ourselves, or maybe of those of our flaws, or just how disappointing we might be, or whatever it is. We start seeing a reflection of that. And I think that that is when what happens is we either, if we have some knowledge of ourselves and some willingness to understand these things, we can kind of do some work on ourselves and on our relationship and understand that there's something we can do about it. Or if we kind of don't want to go there and we're not willing to do that, then what we do is we straight away we label the other person a bad person. Well, he's a so-and-so, she's a so-and-so, because of the way they start looking at us. So I think that once we start having that, once a person starts looking at you and reflecting yourself back to you, there's kind of a choice to make. So it's either am I going to do something about this and learn something about this, or am I going to blame them for what I'm seeing?
Mm.
Now, did I just make up a completely untrue
I
statement, or is there some truth in that?
No, I think you're spot on, because it's true. In the beginning, there's that real cocktail, it's dopamine rich and oxytocin and all the other hormones that are there that have all got very big names, that can be there. And it's even been compared to being on cocaine. That's
Wow.
how strong that feeling is.
Yeah.
And so you've actually got, there's a lot of positivity going on. You've got all the positivity of the hormones, and you're feeling good about yourself. You're feeling a vibrance. Some people call it aliveness, and especially when you're with that person, right? And so that period, I always say, normally goes, look, I'd say 18 months to about 3 years. Some people extend it out to about 4, right?
Yes.
And that's where you don't need any help. you've got great props, and you feel like you're really good at relationship, and you do feel like, I am a great person and I can do this. But then as those hormones start to go, and they do drop off over time, we then have to deal with the realness of not only who we are, but who they are as well, right? And this stage is where people run into problems. And some people could even say, I'm not in love anymore. Maybe I chose wrongly. As you say, they start to blame the other. Some people start to come up with a diagnosis for their partner, all of that kind of stuff, calling them something even, and you're this and you're that. That's not uncommon, right? And the reality is we're all shaped psychologically in relationships, both positively and negatively, right? But the thing about the primary relationship, which is you and your partner, or what we call your new family, is that you've left your family of origin, but we do reenact stuff from the past with that primary attachment person. Yes. I would say nobody gets away from doing that. And what's interesting is we will be attracted to a person or end up with a person that we unconsciously may believe will heal some of those old wounds. And when you think about that, that's all very powerful, isn't it? It's like, yes, I've found my person. I bring trauma, I bring stuff that needs to be healed, and this is going to be the person that's going to do it, right?
Yes, this person's going to complete me. That's right. You complete me.
Exactly. And it feels like that in the beginning. But what is important here is that you actually can keep that relationship alive and still feel those hits of the dopamine and the oxytocin and all of those exciting hormones. You can get that, but you've got to do it consciously. Before, it was happening unconsciously. And interestingly enough, it does happen through gaze and those kind of exchanges that does excite the nervous system and says, this person's wonderful and I'm wonderful, and all of those things that you describe so well. And so I think what happens is that we then learn we have to deal with someone. And what the brain does is it starts to automate that person. Meaning, they're predictable now. I know what they're going to say. I know what they're going to do if I bring up this argument or this issue, and how they're going to react. They're going to avoid, they're going to fight. They're going to do all of those things that we do in human nature. And so things start to go a bit pear-shaped because we decide our partner's predictable because we've known them long enough, right? And this creates problems, because we all start to act with each other in ways we anticipate it's going to be because it's been that way in the past, or we think we know our partner. So what do? We stop asking questions. We stop doing things like, hey, I just moved all your bundle of newspapers that you so lovingly have kept there for however many months, and I've put them in a cupboard, or I've placed them over there, right? And then, your partner will react in whatever way that is, probably be upset about it and all of those kind of things. And you've probably predicted that that's how they are going to respond. And so then you respond in a certain way as well. And what has stopped there is that presence and that deliberate way of being, where you might say, I want to move your newspapers. I know you're probably not going to be happy about that, but I'm a bit tired of seeing them here, this pile, or magazines, whatever. We don't have newspapers nowadays, but you all do, but it's kind of, but that kind of, deliberateness of actually asking a question, consciousness, awareness, mindfulness, right? We stop doing that. Because it's like, I know you, you're fairly predictable, which is lovely, and it feels all safe and secure. That's the beauty of a long-term relationship. But it also creates problems because we stop being curious. We stop
Yes.
that mindfulness and that anticipation because you're my person and you'll be there tomorrow anyway.
Yeah. And do we just sort of, I think we play out the same thing over and over again. So whether it's about
Yeah.
the newspapers or whether it's about whatever it's, we kind of play the same game every time or play the same roles every time.
We do. And what we've probably done is projected our parents, our siblings, past caregivers onto our partner. If we grew up with a father that got angry easily, right, we can project that onto our partner because you've seen them get angry once or twice and it's upset
Yes.
you, right? And so that becomes the narrative.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
why does this happen? It's because life's too fast. Everything's too fast. And all of this stuff is happening. We're looking at facial expressions, we're hearing voice, tone, little jerky movements, all of these things that are all happening in the unconscious that's made us decide maybe this person's not safe. Maybe they are dangerous, like my father used to be. And so we are more primed really to fight than love, because if we didn't have that inbuilt system to protect ourselves, we wouldn't make it, right?
Mm.
And then what couples do is they start to use that more primitive brain of scanning the environment for whether it's safe or not. And then the next thing you know, you're in a fight.
Yeah. Yeah. The same thing would happen, I would think, if maybe you'd been abandoned before. So
Yes.
whether by your father or whoever it is in your life, you're another partner. But if you've had abandonment, that maybe when you start to feel like things are off kilter, then maybe you start to withdraw or you start to push the person away. Would that be the sort of thing you might
Yeah.
see?
If you're scared that your partner will abandon you because you bring up the newspapers, let's say, you'll not bring it up, but what will happen to you internally will be resentment. You'll pull away because you're starting to feel like, these newspapers are sitting here, you're not doing anything about it. Your partner doesn't even know it's bothering you.
Mm.
Right. And
Yeah.
so without that actual conversation or something that brings attention to the relationship where we can actually regulate each other around this kind of stuff,
Mm.
a couple system, we co-regulate.
Yes.
We the same way that it happens in relationships of parent to child, how we help a child when they're distressed. When we help a child by maybe sometimes filling in the blanks and wondering what's going on for them, right? That kind of dynamic also shows up in romantic relationships. Now, I'm not saying it's parent-child because it's not. It's adult to adult.
Mm.
Parent-child relationships are unconditional.
Yes.
Adult to adult need to have conditions, right? It's a little bit different.
Mm.
But those same experiences that happen between a child and an adult does happen in romantic relationships because you're my person. And so all of that old stuff comes up. It's like little things, when I work with couples, I ask, do you who goes to bed first? And say, I do, and I stay up with the computer or I watch movies and all of that. And so my question is, do you put your partner to bed? When they go to bed, do you put them to bed? Do you tuck them in? Right? And the reason for that is because of regulation. We want our night to end well.
Okay.
So if we're leaving each other, let's make sure that we do that in a way, because you're going off into your unconscious asleep, just like kids do, right? That's why kids play up at bedtime, because they're leaving mum and dad. It's the same in romantic relationships.
So what do I do if my hubby's falling asleep on the lounge? Do I wake him up and take him to bed, or do I leave him there and let
Well,
him go to bed when he's ready?
you let him know. You might if you two are having problems, if that's happening around dysregulation before bed, you two might be absolutely fine with it and might greet each other really well in the morning and all is okay. But bedtime and waking up time with couples are really, really important times. And
Yes.
they're the great times to put some buffer in where you're getting it right, because it'll help conflict go better when
Yeah.
something does come up You might not need to be tucked in. You're okay. You've had this dynamic for 34 years and it works for you, and that's okay. But it's something that you maybe could talk to him about, that before he sleeps on the lounge, can he say goodnight in some way?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny the things that when you talk to couples about the habits that they get into, and like you were saying before, these are just things we stop asking questions, we get into certain habits and we just do them, and they may or may not work for you, but it's interesting to sort of stop and think about it.
It is, and that's what couples don't get the time to do. Couple therapy, is really just slowing things down.
Okay.
You're paying for time to slow things down because life goes so fast, particularly people with jobs, children's, mortgages, stress, sick parents, all of the things that go on that, in the world is getting harder by the minute for many, right? Is that not having that opportunity to slow down and actually address some of these unconscious niggles, these unconscious annoyances. We are burdens to each other sometimes, really. It's kind of what you sign up for. I sometimes think it should be in the marriage vows. I take you as my burden, because you can be pretty sure your partner's going to be a pain at some stage, for sure, because we're human and we're annoying, really. We're annoying to each other.
We are, and not me, of course, not you, not me, everybody else. Not us. Yes, ask my husband. You might say something slightly different, just slightly. But I have a question around. So, now it's just dropped out of my head, and I was just thinking about if one thing I see a lot of now, and I think sometimes things go a bit crazy, is that I think that sometimes women sort of pathologize men in a way, or they want to label them or give them some, like you were talking about names before. Oh, he's a narcissist, he's a this, he's a that. And we want men to do the therapy, do this, do that, and speak the language. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing the therapy. Of course, it's worthwhile doing it. I've got no issue with that. And I'm sure you're very successful. You're wonderful at what you do. The question is, at what point are we at what point do we accept someone for, like you said, the habits, the annoying things, whatever? At what point do we accept people are who they are? And because there's a balance, right? Because there's obviously we all could grow and learn and, be better in a relationship and be better human beings. So I believe in growth and supporting each other for growth. But also there's a certain point where let the person be who they are as well. So how do we balance that where we allow someone to be themselves, help them grow, help them be maybe a better version of themselves. But there's this whole, what I see sometimes women do is they kind of turn their man into a project that needs to be fixed. And if he's a project that needs to be fixed, well, why are you in that relationship? You know what I mean? Like there's a balance there somewhere, and maybe you can speak to that.
Okay, so we're all in things with self-interest. Right? We're in relationships, we're in jobs, we're all motivated by self-interest. Unfortunately or fortunately, that's just the way it is, right? So in that case, you've kind of got to find out that you're both interested in the same thing. Are you both interested in creating a secure, functioning relationship where we have each other's back, where we attend to things if one of us is distressed? If your partner is distressed, it's a really good idea to make it your business.
Yes.
Right? Because if they go down, you go down too. That's human nature. We just kind of follow.
Yes.
Unless we decide to disconnect, which is going to create a different problem anyway. Yeah. So this kind of comes back to agreements. What are we in this for? What are you in this relationship for? And people can't just say love. The reason why they can't say love is because love is fickle.
Yes.
We're in love today, but we're maybe not so in love tomorrow because of the annoyances.
Yes.
So if you're with someone who, for whatever, if it is their pathology or whatever it is consistently not showing up in the relationship and are not interested in the same thing as you are, which is safety and security, you being my person, that person that will be there if you're at a family funeral, or if you're in trouble with the bank, or you've done something that you need help with.
The person who has your back, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Friends can say, "Oh, I'm sorry I couldn't make it to your mum's funeral. I couldn't come and see you in hospital," right? But your partner wouldn't be wise to be doing that, right? So it makes it a different relationship, doesn't it? You've kind of got a deal. We're in this because I will do for you what others won't do, right? And having a deliberate conversation about that of why are we in this? If somebody's in it because people are in a relationship for all kinds of reasons, you want it to be because they both want security and longevity and love and passion and connection and having each other's back. But let's face it, some people in relationship is because they want someone there that makes dinner every night and goes and earns some money, right? They're not really interested in what you're interested in, which is something else.
Yes.
Then you've got a problem.
Which is probably why it's a good idea to have some of these conversations before you get married, maybe. So you had a bit of an, and do you do that as well? Like, is that one of the sort of things
I
that
do
you
it a
would
lot.
recommend that people, when they're planning to get married, when they're engaged or whatever, go and sort of have some, pre-marriage sort of therapy, I suppose, just to kind of figure out what those, why are you in it? Just to make sure
And
that you're
people
both in it
do it.
for.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
do it and it's great, It's
Yes.
like, and I say to people, why are you together? And they always say love. And it's like, no, not forget love for now, because love is fickle and it'll change. And you really do need to have an agreement as to why are you doing this?
Yes.
Why are you getting married? What reasons are behind that? And if you're not on the same page as to why you're getting married, some people are getting married because they want to build wealth.
Yes.
There's many reasons why. But if you're going to marry someone or you're going to bring someone into your world, we have a responsibility to check that we're on the same page around what we're doing.
Yeah. I've seen it happen in a relationship where a couple were together for 10 years and they were living de facto most of that time, I think, and they got married and they got divorced within 6 months. And it was because I think he thought that when they got married, they were going to have children, and like he had this whole idea of what it was going to look like. We're going to finally settle down properly and, whatever, be a family.
Yeah.
And she thought that it just was a confirmation of what they were already doing, right? So hers was like, we're just going to keep doing this. We're just going to be married. And his was, we're going to get married and everything's going to change because now we're going to do this other thing. It's like, wow, that would have been a good conversation to have before you got married.
It's amazing how many people don't have it. Those kind of, those questions around what are you expecting?
Yes.
And this is what I'm expecting. And I really encourage people to use a therapist to do it, even if it's a couple of sessions.
Yes.
Just to make sure we're on the same page as to why we're doing this. And staying in the context of what we're talking about around conflict, if people have gone in with two different agendas, that is going to create conflict.
Yes.
Sometimes conflict isn't just about what we're arguing about or what we're discussing. It's actually fueled by decisions made where we aren't aligned, and the problem with it is because we're innately selfish, we want what we want. We want what we want, right? But we also want to be in love. We want a pair bond. That's a dilemma.
Yes.
We want what we want, but I've got to live with somebody or be with somebody and help them get what they want too. And so, in pack therapy, we kind of have an idea, relationships are hard. And the reason why we say that is not just to, advertise ourselves as couple therapists or whatever. It's because relationships, they're really, really hard.
Yeah, they really are. And you really have to, in my experience, is you have to want to be there, and you have to be opting in, and you have
Mm,
to be continually opting in. You don't just opt in once. You have
beautiful
to
way of
opt in
putting it.
over and over again.
Yeah. Choosing. I choose to be in this relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
And I choose you as my person. And together we've got a responsibility to each other
Yeah.
in that. And unless that's understood, people will run into problems.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So say a couple's been together for a few years, and they, the honeymoon period starts wearing off, and they start kind of looking at each other and not quite sure what to do with this situation. Obviously, you would recommend therapy, but the question would be, what are maybe some of the things, the actions they can start to take at that point if they've kind of realized that they're heading down a wrong road or things aren't working out? Was there, besides obviously getting help just within the relationship, are there questions they can start asking
Yeah,
themselves or each other, or what's some actions they can begin to take on their own?
it's a great question. And one of them does come back to it, the agreements. It's like, we got married, or we got together, or we moved in, or we had a baby. All of that was a whirlwind. And it was all so quick. And it was fueled by love and passion, and I wanted you to be my person, all of that kind of stuff. But here we are now, and we're a few years down the track. You could say to your partner, can we revisit what we're doing? Why are we here together now? What do we both want? Are we on the same page around what's important? Is the relationship first, or is something else first? Couples probably need to agree that something's first. I
Okay.
always encourage the relationship being first.
Mm.
Or I say to people, if you want to put kids first or your jobs first, at least agree on that,
Yes. So
right?
just looking at what your values are, sort of
Yeah.
what you, because people might say what their values are, but their values are kind of what they do. So you might say your relationship's your value, but if you don't put any time or energy
No,
into it, then it's not one of your values.
because there's something competing with it. If your job or the gym or alcohol or drugs or something else is more important,
Mm.
right? That's not holding values. That's not about values. That's about wanting you you want to do what you want,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Really. And
Mm.
the thing is, you're with somebody, and so you've chosen to be in relationship
Mm.
rather than stay out of it and do whatever you want. Because if you stay out of it, go ahead.
Mm.
But when you bring somebody in, it's a different responsibility.
Mm.
So I think sitting down and making agreements. Why are we doing this? Do you want the same as me?
Mm.
Are we together because we want to grow old together and have each other's back and be each other's person?
Mm.
Are we together because we both want it? We know life's hard and it's stressful, but we want to travel in a way where we have each other's back, where I will respond if you're distressed.
Mm.
Right? Are we together because we want the safety and security of being a couple rather than being out in the world on our own,
Mm.
which for many doesn't look good. We've heard lots of Tinder stories and horror stories
Mm.
around, trying to find the right one.
Yes.
People in relationship have got the gold of they've already found their person. But revisiting why we're doing it
Mm.
is going to stop a whole lot of conflicts, because if you're on a different page as to, is the relationship first?
Mm.
Why are we here? If for one the relationship's first and the other one is kids first, they're competing values. They're
Yes.
going to compete with the relationship.
Mm.
And I always say, of course, kids are way up there. There's reasons for making the relationship first, and that's because it's going to be really good for your kids.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. No, if your relationship's not doing well, it's not
Yeah,
helpful for your children at all, is it?
no,
Mm.
no. So So to just stay with your question, because I know I could go off track around what do you do, is revisit agreements and do that in an empathic way. We've had a wonderful life, the whirlwind, all of that, because most people have to do it in a whirlwind. You know, that's kind of how it goes. But I just want to slow down now and do it face to face so that you can be watching what's going on for your partner with what you're saying, and that this person, you know, you mean a lot to me. And our relationship means a lot to me. And I know what I want, but I want to make sure you want the same thing so that we're traveling through life and the rest of our lives with the same idea as to why we're doing this.
Yeah. And it's really listening too, isn't it? It's not saying but as they're trying to say it. It's actually kind of just letting them say what it is.
Yeah.
Even if it's not what you want to hear, just letting them say what it is.
Because if you don't let them, this will linger. It will be there as an undercurrent eroding the relationship if you're not in it for the same reasons.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just as I said, staying with the theme of conflict will happen if you're both got different ideas around what we're doing here.
Yeah.
You know, because you really are not on the same page, and you haven't made a decision that why are we here? We're here because I want to have that person that has my back, where I feel safe and secure, that I know is navigating life in a way that values both of us, where we don't get into trouble. You know, in life we can get into trouble for things easily, quickly. Right? That, you know, you are the person that will say to me, hey, I don't know that that's good for both of us, the behaviour you're doing right now.
Yes.
So it does happen. You're right, Fiona. People do decide my partner's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with them, and maybe I need to leave, and all of that kind of stuff. It goes deeper than that. And it takes curiosity to ask the right questions. One thing I say to people, you know, you want to fix things. If you do one thing and be curious.
Curiosity.
Rather than assume, label, blame, withdraw, resent, fight.
Yeah.
Try curiosity and ask some questions.
Yeah, because whatever that person's doing, if they're gambling or if they're out with their mates or if they're whatever they're doing, it's not going to get better with you just, like you said, labeling them or shaming them for it or whatever. That kind of stuff isn't going to be helpful. But being curious, okay, I notice this is something you're doing a lot of. You know, what would you say? Can you tell me more about it, or why are you spending so much time? What's a way to say it that's not judgmental?
You mean a lot to me. That's a great start, because what you're doing is you're setting up their nervous system positively.
Okay.
Because we're co-regulating, right?
So you mean a lot to me is first.
You mean a lot to me. You know, I've chosen you for a reason, because I want to spend my life with you. I've had children with you because you're such a remarkable person. You know, and set their nervous system up right, because if we start critically, they're going to go into hyperarousal or a hypoarousal in their nervous system, and they're either going to get angry or they're going to check out, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so setting that up well before your delivery is really, really important, and remembering people who are criticised, shamed or put down will underfunction.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
right.
not going to help.
It's
They're
not
going
gonna,
to withdraw or it's going to be an argument or whatever, but it's not going to achieve anything.
No.
And it's hard too, because they've got different, I'm just thinking, without going into too much detail, I don't want to give it away with my husband, but my husband and I have very different personalities. and I can kind of just see, all right, because I'm a bit sort of I'm a bit straight into it and straight on, and sort of more of a confrontational sort of a
Right.
person. And I'm sort of just picturing how well that works. And even though
Yeah.
we've made it for 34 years, just picturing how well it works, and it doesn't really work well for me.
Yeah, that's right. And what you might be talking about there might not only be personality, but it's different attachment styles. And maybe we could do another podcast on that, because it's, if you're different in your attachment styles and the way you approach things,
Yes.
it's going to get you into trouble. If I say to people, the biggest thing, one of the biggest things is know your partner's attachment style.
Mm.
Are they more avoidant? Are they more anxious?
Yes.
Reflect on that and approach them or navigate them with that knowledge.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So it's knowing how to approach it. Yes. I think that might have to be another episode. The other thing that I think is quite useful, we might be able to touch on a little bit now, or maybe we could go more into it next time as well, but would be, that we have different style. Now, what's the language for it now? That was just dropped out of my head again. The different rewards that we like. What's the terminology for it? Like, some people like touch, some people like gifts, some people
The love languages, the
love
5 love
languages. It
languages.
just dropped
Yes,
out of my
yes,
head. I was like,
yes,
what's it called? It was in my head and it dropped out. And I
yeah.
know that sort of my love language is acts of service.
Mm.
So my husband, he cooks me dinner, or he makes me breakfast, or things like that. I love that. Like, to me,
Oh,
that's the most romantic thing he could possibly do. Now, I don't care about flowers or any of that. Like, I just not interested, don't care. Look, if you gave them to me, I wouldn't refuse them, but I just don't feel the need for them, and I don't
yep.
value them that
It
highly.
doesn't speak to you.
No, if it's a choice between, you're going to cook me a meal or give me a bunch of flowers, cook me
Yep.
the meal anytime. I could just, if I can have
Yeah.
both, great. But
Yeah.
essentially, I'm the access service really does it for me. But that's not everybody's. People have different love languages, don't they?
They do, and getting to know your partner's love language is a great thing, because it does. I find that men particularly like it. That they've got a set thing that they know works with their partner,
Yeah.
and I think that the love languages are great in that respect. I don't
Mm.
believe that they will heal everything,
No.
because it's more this co-regulation that's
Yes.
important, and being aware that you can really scare your partner quite quickly. We're
Mm.
scaring each other all the time
Yes.
because of that, because of the amygdala is always scanning the environment for safety.
Yes.
And with the person you live with, you want to feel safe.
Yeah, yeah. And it's that languaging that we're using with each other. I certainly have learned over the years. When I was younger, I was very combative, and I saw that I think I had a moment one day where I had this out of body experience where I saw myself. It was it was really uncomfortable because I just did not like her. I did not like that. So I had that happen one time, and then another time my husband actually did feed back to me in no uncertain terms, the way I was behaving and how he just wasn't gonna, like, that's just not okay. And it was, both of those events were quite shocking and quite sobering for me.
Yeah,
And I did ultimately realize that the style I had, and it's, we're all a bit of a product of our childhoods and things that we've experienced and whatever. So, but it doesn't mean that you can't change it. But
no,
we pick up these things, bad habits or ways of dealing with things, unconsciously. But what I did learn is, I learned to recognize, even if I don't always get the language right, I now can see, like, basically, if I'm throwing a landmine into the room. I realize if you're throwing a landmine into the room, that doesn't bode well for your relationship when that explodes.
exactly,
There's
exactly.
nothing good comes from that.
And so what you're talking about there is self-regulation, isn't it?
Mm.
Right? Being able to regulate what you do and what you bring.
Yes.
And so there's self-regulation, but there's also the co-regulation, the two-person system,
Yeah.
where you're impacting each other around what you both do,
Yeah.
and how you are curious, or how you do stay open to your partner's differences,
Yes.
and that's a skill. That's a real skill, being able to keep your eyes on each other and watching, how does my partner respond to what I do?
Yes.
right? And that will give you information.
Yeah.
How they respond to what you say or what you do gives
Yes.
you an information. He or she doesn't like that.
Yeah. You
And
have to
so
be prepared to see it though, don't you?
you do.
Mm.
You do. And that's where, secure functioning relationships. I mean, I have a statistic, I think only about 20 to 25% of the population actually do it or can do it. Right. But actually that's wrong. All can do it. Most of us can do it. It's just that it is so difficult to do because of the innate humanness of who we are, that we're driven by what we want.
Yes. Yeah.
And then when you're doing that in relationship to another, and they want what they want,
yes. Yeah.
right? It's not easy. This is I say 20 to 25% people have secure functioning relationships because this is so hard. Most people are operating fairly insecurely unless they make a decision, and the decision is I want a secure functioning relationship. And the place to learn more about that is through the PACT Institute. We talk a lot about secure functioning, and I'll send you some links to put in this as well,
Yes.
Fiona,
Yeah,
for
that would be
people
great.
to start to have a look at conflict is so rife with so many different aspects. And it's not really just about being difficult or disagreeing, you know what I mean? It's usually has a whole lot of stuff underneath that. And so the key is know your person, know their vulnerabilities,
Yes.
know how you hurt them.
Yeah, like know yourself as well. Like
Exactly.
know yourself, know how you behave, know your person, and know what affects them. And it's just that willingness to be really open to seeing it and feeling it and squirming, because you do squirm a lot when you see yourself, and it's not so nice. But you learn a lot as well. And at least I can't say I'm perfect, not by any means, but I'm not throwing landmines into the room all the time, which is something I used to do.
Good.
Very combative.
I can't imagine it.
The butter wouldn't melt. And it's funny that too, isn't it?
We're all the same. We're all the same.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we've got the way we present ourselves to the world, and then we've got the way we present ourselves to our partner, and sometimes our
That's
partner
it.
doesn't get the best of us,
No.
and that's the sad thing is because that's where we play out all of these emotional things from
And
years gone
unconscious
by.
dynamics, the
Yes,
unconscious dynamics that we bring from our past.
yeah.
Yeah.
So look, I am aware of time, but
Okay.
essentially
Lovely.
with relationships, with conflict management, it seems to be sort of understanding what you're doing, kind of learning more about your partner's style and how they are affected by things or how they
How to navigate them.
navigate them, and starting to have some conversations, some honest conversations. Is that sort of that's
And
kind of a
set it
good.
up right.
And set it up right with
Set it up
what was
right.
it? What was that? What was that line? It was
You mean a
meant
lot
a
to
lot to me.
whatever word you mean a lot to me.
My husband will laugh when he's watching this.
you're
He probably won't watch it. I have to go practice. I have to go and write that down, and I have to go, hang on, let me go and get my Post-it note. You mean a lot.
Exactly. But the thing is, they do mean a lot. This is
I
the thing.
do.
The
I
truth,
just we
truth
never
is,
say it that way.
exactly. It's like they
Yeah.
do mean a lot. And,
Yeah.
sometimes people do need to we hear it because we bring abandonment issues. We bring
Yes.
so many different, issues or pathologies or whatever you want to call it to
Yes.
relationship that really do need some undivided attention sometimes, because it could be the area that keeps getting you both in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think I will have to have you back to talk more about
Wonderful.
attachment styles and
Let's
things,
do
but
that.
this has been really interesting, and thank you for bearing with me and all my weird theories.
Yeah, I think they're great. I think all you're doing is naming how most of us think, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it, and it's good to get
Yeah.
clarification. Oh, person, and a bit of language, maybe better language I could be using, and that we all could be using, really, because we just don't say those things to our partner. I don't know, maybe some people do, but I think so many of us, like you said, it sort of becomes this unconscious thing, and you barely even talk to or ask questions or have the curiosity that you were talking about. We just
Yep.
kind of grunt at each other, and
Mm.
so actually looking at someone and saying, "You mean a lot to me," is probably also quite outside of the comfort zone for a lot of people, and maybe that's why we need to start practicing these things.
They are, and you know, and your partner probably knows that about you as well, that it's not really your style, and that you're probably trying something different. I mean, it could be loaded with so many things, but I think, you know, really, you know, the old sweet nothings into your partner's ear, like, you know,
Yes.
start whispering into your partner's ear, "I think you're amazing,"
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
see what happens.
Definitely, definitely. Look, I'm going to put your details in the show notes, but is there a particular place that people can go to find you?
Yeah, my website, melissaferrari.com.au. Yeah,
Okay, so
that's where you'll find me.
Melissa with one L,
One L,
Ferrari,
two S's,
Ferrari.
Melissa, Ferrari, Ferrari .com.au.
Yes.
And you'll find me there, or you could probably even put me, you know, into a Facebook. If you put Melissa Ferrari, psychotherapist, I would come up there. And I have my page with plenty of followers on there as well.
Yeah. Look, thank you so much for your wisdom and for your time, Melissa. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for asking me, Fiona. It's wonderful.
And
Thanks.
I'm going to get you a promise here. You're going to come back on,
I
little
will
promise
promise.
online, so I can hold
Promise.
it to you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And thank you for everyone who's listening and watching. You know, what I try and do here is have real conversations about things that matter. So please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll talk to you again next week. Thank you, everyone. Bye.